guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. Gentlemen. All right. So we're here to look at this dx500V for my friend Mr. E. Mr. E is a repeat offender. He's here quite often. Anyhow, it's been heavily modified on the inside. The fuse holders have been replaced, as in like removed. And instead of having 2290s in it, it's got 2879s. And I have a feeling, I have a feeling that transistor there is bad. Just one. How do I have this feeling? I plugged it in and ran it for a hot second and looked at it with a FLIR and went, oh, that part's not working. So we're going to do a few things to this. We're going to make it so it's a little bit stabler. Let me explain something to you. This right here is bad. Wire size, good. Okay. The fact that they're not internally tied together anywhere, bad. So what can happen, especially in this particular configuration, is we could have just this wire hooked up. Now this wire runs around, feeds this board. Sorry guys. Actually on a conference call as I'm out here shooting this, and I'm not on the phone with them guys at the moment. I'm over here shooting this video. And that's that noise that you could hear as I'm talking in the headset. If this wire is hooked up, now I learned this, I had a friend of mine, his name was Jim, and we had replaced the power leads on his 667, and the way we had it split was that there was 2 hots and 2 grounds. Well, he went and ran the thing, and as he's driving down the road in his semi, one of the hot legs came off. Bloop. And so then half the amplifier lost power. Guess what happened to the first 4 transistors that had power? Yep. The part that didn't have any power survived. The part that had power burned up because it didn't have any meters or anything. But imagine what would happen if this wire worked its way loose. This one right here, that's the one that's hooked to this backboard. All your meters would still be working, but the backboard wouldn't have any voltage whatsoever to operate from. You're going to get a horrible imbalance. These things are going to fry. Not saying that's what happened here, but I am going to go in and I'm going to add a wire here that comes around and loops over here, so these are bridged internal, and we're going to do that for safety reasons, period. And then we're going to go and we're going to pull this section apart, bloop, bloop. Pull both these transistors out, we're going to check them, we're going to figure out what's good, what's bad, we're going to find out what the beta gain is of the good one, and we're going to find one that's matched and put it in there. And I bet you this sucker takes right off. This thing, like I said, has been heavily modified, and the input power on this one is in the wrong position for the dial-a-watt or any of this to work. But I'm pretty sure he's bypassed all this intentionally because, well, this doesn't look like my handiwork, but looks like it might have been me inspired. Just saying. I like this. This is kind of a cute mod, this here, by moving the choke off of those rods, but after we've done some testing, we found that by changing that one little tiny rod, it doesn't help with the power output any. But I like it. Those are going to stay. And let's see if we can just get the thing running. So on that note, give me a minute. We'll be right back. So turn that radio off. Turn this one on. Okay, so we went in here and we pulled these 2 transistors out, and this one right here was bad, dead short. And so in the process we also had these little caps on the flyback resistors. I had a couple of them fail, so I went ahead and I put 103 disc capacitors in here, which will work just perfectly fine here, and here. And then we added this wire that comes across and goes around, and it ties the 2 boards together, so we don't have to worry about the 2 wires getting separated. And guess what had happened next? So Let's run around the band here real quick. That's a 1,000 watt slug and peak, 1,000 watt slug and average, 5 watt slug and reverse back from the bird, 10,000 watt dummy load. We're going to use the RCI 2950, 5 watt slug between the 2950, of course, and the Texas Star dx500V. Remember, there's nothing stock about this 500V. It's got, instead of the 2290s in it, it's got 4 2879s. Which, let's see, let me think here for a second. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to have in it, is 2879. So, anyhow, let's start out with the 2950. 20 watts worth of drive. We are on 14 volts over here, guys. So, with the dial watt all the way open. It's making our 600 watts of power, as it should. About 200 bird. Input tune, nice and low. Okay. Meter's super sluggish. I need to go in here and change. There's a resistor that's down here, right there. That I'd need to change it. I don't bend that cap over. Right here is what I need to change to make this meter move a little bit better. But I know the guy that owns this thing. I don't think he's going to give a And yes, I censored myself there. I said Okay. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and we're going to pull this. We're going to turn off the 2950. We're going to turn on the striker. Okay. Preamp is working. All the other functions on the front of this work. Now, 80 whole watts of drive, right? Check this out. 300 bird. 800 watts of drive. Or 800 watts of power. So we've seen 84 amps, right? Please note, out of the 1x4 that was very critical that we make it so it doesn't use so much current, it was only pulling 65 amps. This one's pulling 85 amps. And it's got one less transistor in it. Think about that for a minute. Between the last video, the one that preceded this one, and this one, basically the same amplifier, but I went in and I did some special mods on the inside, like it's showcased in the last video, the 667 for Mr. P, where we went in and we bypassed the bias and we did a whole bunch of other little stuff because he only uses it for AM and he wanted it to work on either with a 20 watt radio or a 100 watt radio. So we went and we put ourselves in there a 15 dB attenuator on the input so you can run a 100 watt radio into it, but it still makes 600 watts with a 20 watt radio hitting it. Okay? The amp draw between A and B is drastically different. Now, my friend Mr. E, if he owns this thing, if he wanted me to, I could go in and convert this thing to Class C, but I'm pretty sure that what he'll do is he'll watch the video that precedes this one, and knowing him, he'll get in there and do it himself, and he'll be like, damn. Now, there are some other things that he could do to help pick things up here just a little bit. We could probably get rid of the variable. We could get rid of the delay circuitry, which means removing this resistor here, and a couple other small things that we could do. And I bet you we'd be able to get it up to about 950 watts. But that's an AM committed monster. Now, I know my buddy Mr. E, he likes sideband. So, the fact that he likes sideband means that he needs to keep this working. And it has to stay Class B. But at the end of the day, fixed. On that note, I'm on to the next one. I've only got 2 more that I need to work my way through today. And I'm going to keep plugging on until I get them all done. Gentlemen, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Kick me a like if you like what you've seen. It makes us all feel better, especially me. I need all the help in that department I can get. You know that. Appreciate you coming by. Please come check us out, www.bbiamps.com. And of course, if you got a question that wasn't answered on the webpage, just dial that number right there, and I'll talk to you on the phone. I gotta go, guys. Have a good night. We'll see you. Bye. So I just want to do a quick look on the inside of this thing here. So Mr. E, you're correct. Your sideband delay capacitor is, well, it looked like it broke down for some reason. The side of the case is bent, and I'm pretty sure this is where the little bit of smoke that you had come out of the thing was coming from. There was no residue on the inside of it. I went ahead and I added a bigger capacitor so we could keep the relays latched up a little bit longer. This is a 50 volt bipolar box, you guys. There's no magic that's taking place. It blows my mind to this day that people still think that this isn't actual real tech. How we make this work, I'll give you a little hint. I mean, we've got this section of the amplifier covered for a reason. There's a lot of guys that are really trying hard to figure this out. But I'll give you a little hint. They've been doing it in car audio for years. Years, like 30. So it's the same thing. It's just, you do whatever you're going to do with the voltage, and then you pick whatever your final component's going to be, and it rectifies whatever you're going to put into it. So, okay, I wanted to show this to Mr. E real quick. 4-pill 50 volt, mobile, by the way, runs off 12 volts. So here's our 150 amp Anderson connector. Make sure we show the back side of this thing. Now if we go back and we look in the annals of time, we produced this amplifier 3.5-4 years ago now, and it's been out there running this whole time. Me personally, I feel that there's a voltage issue that is taking place in this guy's moble. Either he's got a loose connection someplace, or you know, he might be getting 14.7 volts at his alternator, but by the time it makes it all the way around and comes back to this little tiny Anderson clip, the voltage is dropping significantly. So I want to show you guys the difference between having it on 12 volts, 12.5 volts versus 14 volts, and I think our numbers are going to match up to what he's seeing. So let's just go ahead and run through it real quick. We're going to hit this with 20 watts. DQ 1 watt. We're going to hit it with 10 watts because we're on 12 volts. 12 volts. 1 watt dead key. So we're getting 600 peak out of it, and that's on 12 volts with only 20 watts of drive. So let me come down here. We're going to bring our voltage up. Now we're on 14 volts. There's our 20 watts of drive. The unit's now on 14 volts also. Making 800 watts of power. Okay? So, let's kick it up a notch. Let's go ahead and get rid of the 2950. We'll hook up the 955 the way this thing was designed to be run. The simplicity that's in this thing is unbelievable to me. So let's go ahead, we'll shut this off. There's our 90 watts of drive. Bury that off in the corner. So now let's go over here, we'll flick this up to 2x. 1700 plus watts of power out of a 4-pill. We're pulling 120 watts or 120 amps worth of current. Now, contrary to popular belief, we're breaking the laws of well, Ohm's law. That's what we had one guy run around and shout from the hilltops for a long time. The only problem is that he was missing a very, very critical portion of his equation, the efficiency of the component. As you increase in voltage, the efficiency of the part goes up, so it requires less mojo to get the job done. You trade. It's so frustrating when I hear people say that to me. Oh, listen, man, it doesn't run on 12, so you got to recalculate. It's not a 65% efficient part like a 2879, or a 50% efficient part, depending on who you talk to. It runs on 50 volts. So with 80 watts of drive, now watch what happens. Let's go down here. Let's turn that power supply off. We'll turn that power supply off. Turn that power supply off. We'll let the batteries float on down to resting voltage. So now we're pulling 150 amps. Now to get this equivalent amount of power in a 2879 box, you're going to need 8 transistors, which is going to pull about 210 amps. Well, as the voltage goes down that's feeding this box, meaning the devices that switch in this thing have to work a little bit harder, it pulls more amperage. So we picked up 22 amps worth of draw, and our output power has dropped significantly. Lost about 280 watts of output power. See, that's why I personally believe, me personally, it's an electrical issue in the mobile, because what he's seeing is power's doing this, and all of a sudden it'll fall back, and it'll do this again, and it'll fall back, and it'll do this again. Box is running steady as a Swiss watch. It has been for years. But guys, that's your little sneak peek of the inside of a 50 volt 4-pill mobile. I hope you all enjoyed it. 17 and some change, 18 and some change out of a 4-pill. With only 120 amps worth of draw at 14 volts. Just saying. Guys, I gotta go. And believe it or not, we didn't even drive this as hard as it's designed to be driven. Food for thought. Sideband delay's been fixed, by the way, my friend. I appreciate you sending this thing up to me and letting me look at it. It all checks out 100%. All the voltages are right. And all the modules are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So either you got a bad ground, or you got something going on with your hot lead, or one of your connections isn't completely appropriately tied or something. There's something going on that I can't diagnose on this side of the street, so I'm sorry. Anyhow, on that note, I gotta get. Gentlemen, I'll see you. Bye.